to other people as well. We're live, okay. It's a bit weird, isn't it? So yeah, welcome if you're joining us on YouTube. Really warm welcome to the Wednesday class. You can say hi in the chat, let us know your name and where you're from. So yeah, it's really, really nice to see you all here in the room, and nice to be joined to whoever's tuning in on YouTube as well. So yeah, tonight I'm going to be talking about emotional engagement. We are starting a series which is going to last for 7 weeks, and we're going to be talking about how you can find success in meditation. So basically how you can let your meditation practice really come alive, how you can enjoy your meditation practice, how it can become rich and meaningful as well. So often we can meditate, and if we've been doing it for a while, it can start to become a bit habitual. It can start to get a bit dry, and we can have to sort of force ourselves to meditate because it's a good idea. But meditation doesn't need to be like that, and there's lots of really simple and practical things we can do in meditation and outside of meditation, so that meditation is really, really joyful. And meaningful and sort of substantial. So we're going to be exploring that over the next 7 weeks. So if you can, see if you can come every week over the next 7 weeks, and if you can't make it, you can tune in online, and if you're tuning in online, see if you can tune in over the next 7 weeks, because we're going to be moving progressively through these 7 stages. They'll build on each other and they'll feed into each other, and hopefully it will really help you to deepen your meditation practice. Yeah, so I'll be saying a bit how to work in meditation and outside of meditation over the course of the evening. But what we're going to do first, which is a really important part of the practice, is we're going to relax the body. So we're going to lie down. So what will help is if everyone lies in the same direction. If you're at home, you can lie in whatever direction you want. But in the room, you're going to lie down with your head facing in this direction. Put your head on a cushion and your body on your mat, and your feet are going to be on the ground. So just position yourself so that you're lying down, have a cushion under your mat. You're going to have your knees bent and your feet on the floor. It's actually a bit helpful if you take your socks off, because then your feet won't slip on the floor. And if you're at home, you're just going to lie down, back on the ground, head on a cushion, feet flat on the ground. So the point of lying down at the start of the class is to allow the body to relax and also to unwind a little bit from the day. So often we sort of crash into our activities. We go from one thing to the next. We don't really allow much of a transition. We don't really allow the body and the mind to rest. And meditation just becomes another thing that we are doing. But we don't want to really bring that state of mind into the meditation practice. So we're just lying down as a transition, just letting the body rest. So just let the body be quite heavy on the ground. If you want, you can have your hands on your lower belly, just to tune in to the breath. And as you breathe out, see if you can just release any tension that you can feel through the body. So you can let your head be heavy on the ground. Let your neck be long and soft. And just let your shoulders release down. And let the chest be soft and open. And just feel the whole length of your spine. And with each exhale, Seeing if you can just let the muscles of the back just relax down. So often we're gripping and holding on through the back. So you're just seeing if you can just let the back soften with the exhalation down towards the ground. And let the back of your pelvis also be heavy, releasing down. And see if you can let the thighs relax. If it feels like the legs are gripping, you could try taking your feet wider and letting your knees come together. That can sometimes help the legs to relax if the legs feel a bit tense. And just softening down the back of the calves, the ankles. And just feeling the contact of your feet on the floor. Notice which parts of the feet are touching the ground, which toes are in contact with the ground. Feel the temperature of your feet. And don't worry if you feel a bit sleepy, that's okay. You're not trying to sort of force your mind. You're just, in a way, you're just letting your mind rest. You can bring your attention to your belly. And just feeling the breath down in your belly. And see if you can broaden your awareness so that you've got a felt sense of the breath in your belly and the breath across your chest. You don't need to make any particular type of effort, just allowing the body to be breathed. Noticing the rise and fall of the belly and the chest with the breath. then just start to broaden the awareness out through the whole of your body with the breath. So it's as if every pore of the body could breathe. And then just start to broaden the attention out a bit further, just listening to the sounds that you can hear inside the room, outside the room. And then when you're ready, you're going to roll over onto your right hand side and just push yourselves up, and you're going to come back up to sitting. I'm just going to turn the lights up. Good. Yeah, so over the course of this evening, I'm gonna say a bit about meditation, how to work in meditation. We'll meditate, then we'll have a tea break at about 8 o'clock. And then we'll come back and I'll say a bit more and we'll meditate again. And we'll finish at 9:15 this evening. Yeah, so I want to talk about one of the first steps really in working in meditation. What can happen in meditation practice? This can happen in the course of a single meditation practice, but it can also happen over like our sort of meditation from day to day, is that it starts to get a bit tired or a bit dry. So it might be in the course of one meditation. So you sit to meditate and you just get the feeling that it's not working and it manifests differently for different people. So you might feel just really, really distracted and like you're not getting anywhere in your meditation, like the meditation's not deepening. It might be that you just feel this deep underlying resistance to meditating. So even though you're sitting, you just really don't want to be there. You want to do something else. You might experience that as a sort of restlessness in your body or your mind, like you just want to be somewhere else. Or you might be in meditation and it just feels really thin, like you are meditating, but you're having to really force yourself to just meditate. You don't really want to be doing it. So what that is a signifier of is that you're not really emotionally engaged with the meditation practice. And what I mean when I say that is that a part of you wants to meditate, but another part of you is like moving in another direction. You want to be doing something else. So what we're trying to do in a way is we're trying to get all of ourselves behind the meditation. Sort of say it's just one meditation practice. We're trying to gather as much of ourselves as we can into the meditation. And what can happen when we notice that we're really distracted and that we have that, maybe you have that story that the meditation isn't working, is that we think we just need to try harder. And so we apply more willpower. So that might be in the course of one meditation, or that might be in your meditation the week. You might be like, oh, I really don't feel like meditating. I keep lying in. I need to just try harder. So you apply force and you use your willpower. And that works for a short period of time. So in the meditation practice, you might notice you're distracted. Then you think, okay, I'm just going to try much harder, forcing yourself to concentrate, forcing yourself to come back to the breath, trying to squeeze metta out of your heart if you're doing the metta bhavana. And it works for a while. Sometimes that will even work for a whole meditation. Sometimes that will carry you through a month of meditating. Like, you will meditate every day if that's what your goal is. But it's quite thin, it's quite dry, it doesn't feel like there's depth. It's not actually very pleasant and enjoyable. You're sort of just doing it habitually and mechanically. So rather than calling on our willpower, what we really need to do is call on our inspiration. So we need to nourish, what inspires us. We need to come back to our intention of, why are we meditating? So I'll say a bit more about that in the second half in terms of what we can do in terms of to sort of nourish our sort of motivation for meditation. But in the meditation, the first thing that we really need to do actually is relax. If we notice the meditation isn't working, we're not getting there in the meditation practice, we need to relax. And then we need to come into sort of like a deep head-on relationship with what is happening in our experience. So if that is like you don't want to be there, well, what does that feel like in your body? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? What is actually happening? So everything that arises in your meditation practice, the physical sensations, the distractions, see if you can just turn towards them and be in touch with them, but not completely identify with them. So you're not getting completely caught up in the story, you're not getting lost in the sensation. There's a level of awareness where you know actually that this is just your mind's distracted, your body's restless. It's just arising and it's going to pass away. So you're engaging with it, but you see the nature of it as transitory. And the more you practice like this, the easier it becomes. And what happens is then you're really engaged. You're really engaged with your experience. So I'm going to say a bit more about that and how you can work in that way. But what we'll do now is we'll meditate. We'll do the mindfulness of breathing. And I want you to, as we do the practice, I just want you to notice, notice what happens in the practice. Maybe you'll just dive into the practice and there'll be deep concentration and no distracted thought. Is that what happens for most people in meditation? No, me neither. So usually what happens is we get distracted, right? And then sometimes it's what we do when we notice we're distracted. The art of the meditation is, okay, what do we do with that? What stories are you telling yourself? That's like how you're working with your mind. The mind gets distracted. We're training our minds. So when it gets distracted, when you're feeling like you don't want to be in the meditation, when something pulls you away, how are you working with that? So just notice. How are you working with that? Are you contracting your body and your mind and forcing yourself? Are you softening and noticing and trying to engage with whatever arises and keep in touch with your body and keep your mind sort of malleable and flexible and open and keep this level of awareness through the body? Where does your mind go? What are the habitual distractions? Are you resisting them? Are you afraid of the restlessness and the energy that's in your body? So just notice what your responses are to your mind in the meditation practice. Notice how you're working. And just see if you can engage with it. It's really exciting, isn't it? Anything could happen. So that's what we're going to do, a period of the mindfulness of breathing. And so the instruction is to notice when you're distracted and you can see actually if you can stay open rather than contracting. See if you can stay open and stay in touch with the body and the breath when you notice you're distracted. It's a bit like the distraction is a cue to expand your awareness to the body and the breath, but not to push away the distraction, not to push away strong emotion or the sort of physical sensations of restlessness or anxiety or tiredness, whatever arises, physical sensations. Okay, so set yourselves up in your meditation posture. If you're at home, make sure you're really comfortable in your seat. If you're on the ground, have your feet, have your legs on the ground. If you're on a chair, have a cushion in the small of your back to support you. So when you're ready, you can let the eyes close. And just start by allowing your body to relax a little. Let your shoulders relax. Let your face soften. And just feeling the breath through the body. And when you notice you're distracted, try not to contract the mind and the body. Just expand to include the breath and the body. The mindfulness of breathing. And now just start to let go of the practice and just sit. Not trying to meditate, just releasing your efforts. Okay, so we're going to have a tea break now. So if you're in the room, you can head through into the lounge, and if you're online, we're going to be back at 8:15, so you can join us back at 8 o'clock. So we sadly can't provide you tea online, but we can provide you tea in the lounge if you're here. So head through to the lounge when you're ready. Good. Yeah, so welcome back everyone in the room. Welcome back on YouTube. Yeah, so I'm going to say a little bit more about emotional engagement in meditation. Maybe what would be quite helpful actually is if anyone in the room or anyone on YouTube actually wanted to just say what they noticed in the meditation practice that we did in the first half. Were you all sort of deep coursing in the depths of the transcendental, limitless mind? Was anyone distracted? Yeah? Do you want to say what did you notice what the distraction was and what you did when you noticed you were distracted?
Very mundanely, just work, just straight back.
Work, yeah. So were you thinking about things that have happened in the day?
Yeah. And
were you thinking about things that you need to do tomorrow or in the week?
I think it's just that momentum if you've been, squared in on,
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah. So you noticed that you were thinking about work, and then what did you do when you noticed that was happening?
I think intermittently when you can go on and stuff and little sounds just popping back in, that was a really good way of kind of reorienting the whole kind of wider field, I guess. And just trying to be, kind with it.
Yeah.
And giving up on fighting and that.
Yeah, that's really wise actually. So it's like using using your senses in a way to sort of come back to something more physical and tangible, like sound is like a sort of sense base, which is quite present now rather than something which is in the past or in the future. Yeah. And I think that's true as well of just not fighting your experience. I don't know if other people can have that experience in meditation where you get distracted and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't be distracted, I'm supposed to be meditating, and then you like pull yourself back to the meditation, and then when you do that you just bounce back again. And what can happen is rather than cultivating focus and concentration and calm, we end up cultivating frustration because we've got this idea or this expectation about what should be happening in our meditation practice. But of course, if you've been working all day and you've been in that state of mind, which probably a lot of us are, even if you're not working actually all day, we're in a particular mode, aren't we, where we're planning, we're thinking, we're strategizing, we're usually multitasking. A lot of us are sitting down, we're on computers, we're sort of on the surface of ourselves, aren't we? We're not so in touch with the depths of ourselves. And, we're busy, we might be a bit stressed, there might be a lot of pressure from lots of different things. We're trying to attend to lots of different things. So that is the state of mind that we're cultivating. That's our sort of mode of operating. So of course, when you come to sit to meditate, it's not like everything's just going to be like, meditation, and you're going to be really calm. Of course, like you said, it has its momentum. It will have a momentum. So that's why we need to work outside of meditation, but we also need to work in the meditation practice to know that, well, that is just what we've been doing with our minds. So that is what the mind that we come to sit with is going to be like that. So then what do we do when the mind is like that? Because just through not wanting it is not going to it's not going to change. It's probably just going to amplify it. Like you say, like if we're fighting it, if we cultivate frustration, if we don't want it, we're going to have it anyway. So one thing that we can do in the meditation practice is we can really be in relationship with that. Like, what does it feel like to be really scattered? It's really difficult because it's hard, because the nature of the mind being scattered is that you're scattered and you don't really have the awareness. But with practice, you can, the more you don't respond with frustration, the more you just think, the more you notice, okay, this is the mind contracted, this is the mind distracted, and feel how uncomfortable it is, because it's really uncomfortable. And that's why we go off into other fantasies or off into other things, because we don't want to be in relationship with the mind and the body that we've been cultivating, because it's painful. But if we want to transcend it, we've got to be in relationship to it, and we've got to feel the discomfort of it, because then it will settle down, but B, it also motivates us to change. And we start to notice outside of meditation what we're doing. And then we start to change our behaviors outside of meditation. And then in meditation, the meditation practice is different. So our meditation life and our life outside of meditation are obviously the same, and they feed into each other. So your meditation will affect your life outside of meditation. Your life outside of meditation will feed your meditation practice. So we sort of work creatively in both areas. What can happen in that when we sit to meditate is that we want a particular experience. We want to feel focused. We want to feel calm. We want pleasure. And we want to go straight to that. But we can't. We have to come into relationship. We have to go through our experience and come into relationship with it in order for it to deepen. So just by really, really wanting something else, we won't get it. But if you come into relationship with what's happening in your experience, like I know, Claire, you were saying that it's physical pain. If we come into relationship with that and we relax into that, what can actually unfold is a feeling of contentment. It's not that the physical pain or sometimes the restlessness goes away, but it's a bit like when our relationship to it changes, we can feel a sense of, I don't know how to describe it. It's like the mind can deepen and we can feel a sense of contentment and a sense of sort of peacefulness actually and concentration with what is arising in our experience. So it doesn't have to be like one or the other, they can co-arise. And as we come into relationship with what's happening, it means that something else can come into our experience, which actually we haven't sort of willed, we've just set up the conditions for something else to arise. Maybe I can tell you a little anecdote. Like when I was on my ordination retreat, we got sent off. We were doing like a meditation day. So we're in the mountains. We've been there for about 1.5 months. It's a 3-month retreat. So we've been there for about 1.5 months, basically in silence most of the time, meditating. So we built up quite a lot of momentum. And we were reflecting on suffering. So reflecting on like dissatisfaction that occurs in part of the human experience, is that it's unsatisfying. And we were sort of sent off into the mountain to reflect on the sort of nature of discomfort, the nature of suffering, the nature of dissatisfaction. So I went off with my notebook and I was planning to sort of meditate for a bit and reflect. And I thought I'd meditate first. I sat to meditate and there was a fly just like buzzing around. And I was like, I can't meditate. This is so annoying. I can't meditate with this fly buzzing around. So I moved and then it just like everywhere I went, this fly was like following me. And I was like, oh, this is the whole point. Like this, I don't want the fly. I want this really peaceful experience so that I can think about suffering. But the fly is the suffering. And I was like, oh no, it's like, we've got these ideas of, we have the theory, don't we? But then when it comes to the practice, it's like, but I just don't want something uncomfortable. I want the insight, I want the liberation, I want to see into the nature of reality, but I really don't want a fly buzzing really close to my ear. And it was like, kept like going right around my ear. And it was so interesting. I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit with it. And like, it's really interesting how, what my mind was doing. I was like, oh my God, it's going to burst what if it goes in my ear and it bursts my eardrum? And then what if I lose my hearing and we're in the mountains and the hospital's really far away? And I was just like, okay, calm down. So just trying to really like feel the discomfort of this fly. And it's so interesting when you really feel into, you know, physical suffering, or like it can be more emotional, psychological. It's really threatening. Like on some deep level, discomfort is really threatening to like, well, it is for me, I think it is for everyone else, our sort of very being. It's like I should be able to avoid discomfort, but we can't. And what happened was I was really paying attention to it. It was like my experience was getting more and more heightened. I was like honing in on it and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. And then what happened was something changed. I can't really say what it was, but something changed where I just, through paying attention to it, I was like, okay, this is in my experience, but there's also loads of other things in my experience. So I like just broadened my awareness out. It wasn't that I was pushing the sound of the fly away or the sort of sensation of it being really close to my head, but as I paid attention to it, something shifted in my attention where I started to broaden out. Then I could like hear the wind as well. So like it was really nice. I was like this warm breeze. Then I could feel the warm breeze like on my skin. And then I could like hear the wind through all the trees. It's like these gorgeous forests, hear the wind through all these trees. Then I had a sense of sitting. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting in these mountains. I can feel the earth underneath me. I feel really like stable and open. I'm in the elements. And suddenly it's like my whole experience expanded. And the sort of, I was like, then I wasn't actually really aware of the fly, but it wasn't through trying to force the experience away. It's through this sort of expansion of realizing, oh, there's loads of other things in my experience. It's not just the fly. And then it was like really, really blissful. And it was like, it didn't really matter if the fly was there or not. I could just sit and I felt really still and really content. So it was really interesting, this thing of like, I was honing in on the sound of the fly and contracting around it because I didn't want it. I was binding myself to the fly, like through the like, this is awful. I was like, everything was binding to it. But when I could pay attention to it and sort of soften, I sort of unbound myself, and then something really expansive came in. So I wasn't like, oh, there's a fly, I know, I'm going to like feel the mountains and the breeze. It sort of was a bit more, it sort of, that came in, it was like the world sort of came into my experience when I could be in relationship with the discomfort and also soften and let go a bit. So I wanted to say that story because I think it's an example of what we can do in meditation all the time, which is something arises which we don't want, but instead of just being in relation to it and seeing its nature, that like, oh yeah, this is the nature of mind, this is a contracted mind, this is the human mind, it contracts when there's suffering. Can I feel the discomfort and can I just soften around it? And just stay with it and sort of have confidence that something else will come into your experience, that your experience isn't just suffering. So it's like having that confidence, and the more you do that, the more that confidence will build. And that is emotional engagement. So you're not separating out. You're not like, oh, restlessness, oh, work, oh, physical discomfort, I don't want it. You're not doing that. You're stepping into a relationship with it, but you're also not completely identifying with it. So you're allowing something else to be there. And I don't know what that something else will be. It will manifest differently for different people. And that's why meditation's so exciting, because you don't know what's going to happen. You're laying the conditions out through, like, including the breath, including the body. You know, when we give the instruction to come back to the breath and back to the body, it's not that you're pushing away your experience and trying to meditate. It's how I sort of feel it is it's more like you're including those other experiences, so that you just keep allowing there to be a sort of a letting go, a non-identification with what's arising. Yeah. And the more that we meditate, the more that we start to see the nature of those experiences. And if you are meditating, it's bad actually for me to make these sort of flippant remarks about, are you coursing in the depths of deep concentration? Because actually you might be, you know, like it's not a sort of like this sort of funny thing that might never happen. Like that will happen for you. You will go deep into concentration in meditation, and you don't know when that will happen, but that will happen for you. And if that happens, the same thing applies. Your mind then is more expansive, there's more depth. And then what you need to do is keep allowing it to deepen. So we can also contract around pleasure, can't we? It's like, oh, I'm getting concentrated, whoop, and then we lose it. So it's the same thing. Like you feel the pleasure actually. It's like we sort of attach onto pleasure and we attach onto discomfort. So you feel that and you allow it to deepen, and you allow it to deepen. And what will help that to deepen again is staying in touch with your body and your breath, the object of the meditation in this case. And what you can also do if you're feeling if concentration arises is you can turn your mind towards the nature of the experience. So you can notice the changingness of the breath, notice the changingness of the experience. So you're bringing in a more of a wisdom reflection to that experience, and that will help the experience to sort of deepen and ripen. So if you get really concentrated in the meditation practice, then that's another way to keep deepening the practice. So we're always looking in the meditation to see where it can deepen. So that's in a meditation practice. And then outside of meditation practice, we're also looking to refine our states of mind. So yeah, we'll all have demands on our time. We'll all have situations which we probably don't want to be in, like whether that's work responsibilities or family responsibilities or other responsibilities. It's really, really important to make sure we have time to sort of feed our inspiration and connect to beauty, connect to a sense of wonder, do things which really, really nourish us and which bring us pleasure, and the type of pleasure which doesn't sort of bind us. The type of pleasure that opens the heart and doesn't lead to more and more craving. So that type of pleasure might be like walking in nature. It might be, we were talking about baking, like that can actually be like, it's something which is practical, it's enjoyable, creative or scientific, depending on how you approach it. It might be engaging with the arts, so going to a gallery, listening to some beautiful music, playing an instrument. Something where you're sort of, nourishing and refining your sort of aesthetic sensibilities. Those states of mind that we can get into when we're relaxed and we're fully engaged is basically exactly the same as what we're trying to do in meditation. When you see a beautiful landscape, you don't need to say to yourself like, oh, that's a really beautiful landscape. You're sort of immersed. It's like an immersive experience. That's what we're sort of looking for in meditation. So we see if we can cultivate that outside of meditation. Also, I actually also find reading memoirs of really inspiring people. I also find that really helps to nourish inspiration to sort of think about how I want to live my life, what I want to be doing with my time. So you'll all have different ways of doing that. But that's really, really important. Try and do something each day which sort of feeds your inspiration, even if it's quite small, which nourishes you, something enjoyable, so that your life's not like this grind and you meditate to sort of get through your life. Do you know what I mean? Don't just make your life bearable, really enjoy it, yeah. You know what it's like when we're looking for something, aren't we? And we go onto our phones and we scroll through WhatsApp, or we scroll through Instagram because we want something more. So find out what it is that you want, what you really want, and then start to act on it. Yeah. Just wondering if I want to say anything else. Are there any questions actually up from what I've said so far? Oh yeah, is there a question online? Yeah, great. Thanks, Jay.
We've got a question from Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
She says her thoughts skip around from topic to topic.
Yeah.
And she finds she can count the breath and think about other things almost at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Is this problematic and common?
So Sarah's saying that she is meditating and she's sort of counting the breath, but at the same time she's thinking. Yeah, I know that quite well. You end up getting to 102 and you're like, oh, hang on, it's supposed to be 10. So Sarah's asking if it's problematic and common. I think it's quite common from the response in the room. I think other people, it's quite common. Like I was saying, we're quite used to multitasking, aren't we? So our mind can sort of strangely do two things at once. But that's not going to lead to concentration. It's not problematic, and it's not deeply problematic, but it's not going to cultivate a depth of concentration. So in a way, my suggestion would be the same in a way. It's just to notice that that's what's happening. Notice that your mind's moving in sort of two different directions, and see if you can come again, include the breath, include the body. It's always the same thing, actually, to notice what's going on in your experience. So usually when we're thinking about something else, there's an underlying emotional drive underneath it. So it could be, I don't know what it is for you. For some people, it's anxiety. That's why we keep thinking about things. So it's about getting in touch with what's underneath the distraction and trying to be in relationship to that. Then it will sort of liberate itself in a way. But yeah, it's really common. So you don't need to take it personally. It's just what the mind does. It's just another form of distraction. Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for your question, Sarah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
May I bounce off that?
Yeah.
So if there isn't particularly an affect or an emotion that I'm aware of, so the quality of my experience tends to be emotionless.
Yeah.
And sometimes that worries people when it worries me. I don't know if it's dissociative or not, but yeah, could you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so maybe you can be more specific. So in the meditation practice or in your life, you're not feeling strong emotion.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There seems to be somewhat of a disconnect between what I'm feeling here and down here. So just as you were speaking there, some butterflies arose within my stomach. But up here I felt absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, well, maybe not in a way, because we've got like there's like a rational response, isn't there? Like, something can be happening in our lives and we can be like, no, it's fine because I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that's all in place. But the physical response, like you're saying, like we can have butterflies in our tummy, the heart can be racing, so we might know that a situation is okay rationally, but on an emotional level, there is a physical response. So it might not be on the level of like your cognition that you're feeling anxious or you're thinking anxious thoughts, or I don't know if it's anxiety, but something might not be sort of registering sort of consciously, but your body is having a response. So if like that's quite common for lots of us, is like we can be a bit out of touch with our emotions. I mean, people say that really commonly, that we can be out of touch with our emotions, although I'm not. Sometimes that's not so true, because sometimes we can have really big emotional responses, can't we, to things like, I don't know, if you just like drive or cycle in London, you can see people having really big emotional responses and road rage. So that's not the case for everyone. But maybe a thing that will really help is like doing something physical. So like physical exercise really helps. Being in nature really helps us feel in touch with our body. Maybe the main tip is to try to connect to your body as a starter, because your body will be giving you those cues, and it sounds like it already is. So in a way, just feeling the butterflies or feeling the physical response in the body, and just go from there. Yeah. Just getting in touch with the physical responses, making that connection. And if you keep doing that, then over time, other bits of you will probably catch up.
Okay.
Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so let's meditate again. We'll have another period of the mindfulness of breathing. Actually, I've just remembered one more thing I wanted to say, which I think is important, which is to sort of feed your meditation practices. Make sure that where you meditate is beautiful. So if Buddhist sort of imagery speaks to you, then make a really beautiful shrine at home where you meditate and really care for it. And if you're not sure if you're a Buddhist yet and you don't have any Buddhist sort of figures or images, just get flowers, get candles, get incense, make the space really, really beautiful, and sort of look after it. And that will have a really, really big effect actually on your meditation practice. Like, you'll want to sit in front of that. So make sure the space where you're meditating is beautiful. Okay, that was it. Okay, so yeah, again, make yourselves comfortable. So let's see if we can just practice what I've been describing. When you notice you're distracted, or you notice discomfort, see if you can sort of, in a way, lean into it. That you're staying in touch with the breath, in touch with the body. Just allowing yourself just to settle into your meditation posture. And letting your shoulders just release down your back. And the chest broad and open. And just softening your face, let your cheeks relax. And the muscles around your eyes. So we can't jump over our experience to access concentration. Just needing to come into relationship with the body and the breath, the mind and the heart. So you're just clearly and directly including the breath and the body in your experience. The mindfulness of breathing. can just start to let go of your efforts and just sit. Good. Okay, yeah, so we're coming up to the end of the evening. So yeah, I just wanted to say, see if you can practice this during the week, inside of meditation, outside of meditation. Notice, where's your energy going? Where are your emotions moving to? Can you really engage with your experience? And just see what happens in your meditation practice over the course of the week, and then come back next week and we'll move on to the next step. And yeah, just to sort of emphasize what Amelie Odin was saying about going on retreat. If you haven't been on retreat, it really is, all of these sort of concepts start to make more sense because you have more time to put them into practice. And the mind, without the sort of everyday distractions that keep us on the surface of our experience, the mind just naturally starts to deepen. So meditation's much less hard work. It's just naturally much more enjoyable on retreat. So yeah, like Amelie Odin was saying, you can start to really experience, the possibility of your own mind actually on retreat. So yeah, so I know in the Jay's going to post in the chat for those of you on YouTube some of the retreats that we've got coming up. Good. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Really, really nice to spend the evening with you, and we'll see you again. That's it. Thank you. Thanks. So I think you can. Do people leave their cushions where they are? Yeah. So you can leave your cushions where they are. Yeah.